Another week of training camp means another week of news, and today Jeff Bell and I are going through 32 storylines for 32 teams, covering the most important thing you need to know from the last week of training camp. No fluff, no intro. We're getting right into it. Jeff, we're starting today, as always, with the Arizona Cardinals. Jeremiah Love does not have a timetable to return from his high ankle sprain, but the team is hopeful he's available for week one. How are we reacting to this? Is this like a total fade on Jeremiah Love, or are you buying the dip with him now sometimes falling into round four?
When I'm seeing him in round 4 in a large field tournament, I'll take him there. Just again, we were talking pre-show about some opportunities for some unique entries, and he does open up that window there. But that's large field, that's multiple entries there, and I do think that you need to. We're at the point now where that's so popular that you need to split between home league advice and that type of advice. And I would say in my home league right now, if I were up there, I think there's other options that I would go through with my first 4 picks in my home league setting right now, because the reality of it is we could see a very different split here because of this injury.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see where he'll go in home leagues. Like I've been taking Jeremiah Love when he falls late fourth, early fifth in these big field tournaments, which happens every now and then. But like even in a home league, I think that I'm smashing that right there. And like even if he's not playing early in the season, like we saw just that little taste of action in the preseason game where he looked elite. And like I'm not throwing that turnaround lightly. Like he looks like a guy who's ready for NFL action, like contact balance, strength, everything that we'd expect to see from him. So I think this could end up being a steal if he falls there. We were both kind of out on that round 3 price tag, but I think if he's sitting there in late round 4 or early round 5, it's a good pick in just about any sort of format.
My concern would be him being so young and them their competitive position. Like why would you push him basically, unless you're 110% sure, or unless they start out 4-1 unexpectedly. So that would be I think my big concern with him.
Well, we got 31 more teams to cover, but before we do that, hit that like button and subscribe. We're bringing you daily fantasy content between now and week one. We know drafts are coming up real quick. We're going to help you be prepared for these drafts so you don't feel like you are playing from behind. Hit that subscribe button and please like this video. Best way to help this video grow, we can get more eyes on it. That helps us, helps you, helps football guys, helps everybody. So smash that like button. Let's go on to the Atlanta Falcons here, Jeff. Michael Penix Jr. has been cleared for full practice participation, officially opening the starting quarterback competition with Tua Tagovailoa. As somebody who's drafted a lot of Drake London and a lot of Kyle Pitts, I want to see Michael Penix out there. I'm sure you do too as well.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely. I'm at the point of reading these camp reports, doing these camp reports for the Falcons. Definitely Penix. Everything with Tua Tagovailoa has been the game against Denver. Nothing was 5 yards downfield. Everything was shorter than that. Everything has been just very, very short in the passing game. We know Penix can spin it with the best quarterbacks in the league. He's got big arm that can push the ball vertically downfield. We want to see him in there to really unlock with Drake London, everything there. I had a note in there about Kyle Pitts in the screen game, and Kyle Pitts had 4 of the 5 targets from Tua against Denver. And Pitts was asked about the screen game usage, which we know Kevin Stefanski has used quite a bit in the past. And he kind of laughed and said, "I can't talk about scheme," but I think there's going to be a lot of volume moving to Kyle Pitts' direction there.
I think especially with Tua out there, because we know Tua doesn't have the arm to push the ball deep downfield. So kind of working around his inefficiencies, like they are probably going to be throwing a lot of short balls to get the ball in the hands of Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Once Penix gets out there, then we can see that open the offense up a little bit more downfield, more contested catch opportunities.
One more thing on them, 2 more things maybe real quick. Tyler Goodson might actually push Brian Robinson out as the backup running back. Tyler Goodson has had an amazing camp, and he is a lot better in the screen, the receiving game, than Brian Robinson. And so that could be a flip there that I don't think anybody would have on the radar. And then the other thing is Zachariah Branch. I understand why Zachariah Branch is the other drafted receiver. He is not playing with the starters right now. He's the 4th wide receiver in. Jahan Dotson's that guy that's on the field all the time. I mean, if you're playing towards the end of the year, you can make the argument that's where the value comes in on Branch. But right now, he's not really cracked the rotation.
Onto the Baltimore Ravens, we've got Rashad Bateman arrested on multiple family violence charges stemming from a June 6th incident. Could face a suspension, but now we're looking at maybe the case being dropped. Just a lot of uncertainty right now, Jeff. What are you doing? Because we talked about Rashad Bateman being one of our favorite final round picks in best ball. Are you still clicking that button, or do you want to wait until we get some clarity
I'm
here?
clicking the button now. I had over the weekend, I had a little bit of pause because I was clicking the button almost every single time, and I was like, I've clicked
Same.
this quite a bit, so I've already done that a little bit. Now I'm back in there. And yeah, like you said, there's uncertainty. There's weird stories coming out about that, and I think the other part of it would be we've seen just time and time again these situations that pop up. Alvin Kamara, we got like 2 years of discounted Alvin Kamara because there was the fear of the suspension year one, and then year two when it actually happened. The league has really let these things play out before they lay those suspensions down, and it would be surprising to see it work to that effect before him being a potential suspension. But like you said, it seems there's a lot going on with this story, and I cover the Ravens too, and that's one that even the Ravens are not talking about this at all.
Yeah, and I think more often than not, just kind of sticking with the advice that like the NFL moves slow when it comes to stuff like this, with this being a June 6th incident that just kind of hit the news cycle a week ago. I'd be shocked to see anything happen this year. This is probably, if anything, more of a 2027 problem. So, hopefully this isn't as serious as it sounds, first and foremost, taking the victims into consideration and all that. And for fantasy purposes, it does sound like he's probably going to be out there week one, barring any massive change. So if you're drafting Rashad Bateman, I don't think there's any reason to stop at this point. But let's move on to the Buffalo Bills. There is clear momentum building around Dalton Kincaid, who looks stronger and has yet to miss any practice time this summer. Jeff, I mean, Dalton Kincaid, you know it as a Bills fan. Like, injuries have been the theme of his career, but he is dominant when he's on the field. If he's healthy, is this a guy who can be, dare I say, like a top 5 fantasy tight end?
Absolutely. That's definitely in play, that he could realize that ceiling. Playing with Josh Allen, I mean, anything is in play there. And they are going to play the other tight ends. And I think that that's a key there. And I do wonder about the maintenance plan with Dalton Kincaid, the run blocking, those types of things, still kind of a weak point. I don't think he got amazingly better overnight. And so I think that that's going to be a potential limiter. So I struggle to see the volume going all the way there, just given the injury history and given the usage from other tight ends, and given also DJ Moore and the other targets there. I know Josh Palmer is said to have had a really, really strong camp. Khalil Shakir's been battling injury. Keon Coleman's been battling some injury there. So I think that it's a Rorschach test here. At some point, you can see the talent coming together with Josh Allen, and the upside could be there. There's also reasons to be off of it.
Yeah, and I think all of that is baked into his ADP.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even drafting this guy as a top 10 tight end at this point. So if you miss out on that elite tier, I think Kincaid, Kittle, where those guys are kind of sitting as like the outside of the elite tier, you aren't paying up for them, but they do have that elite upside. Those are the guys that you're getting a nice injury discount on. And if they stay healthy this year, it could pay dividends. Let's move on to the Carolina Panthers. Jonathan Brooks capitalized on his starting reps with a goal line touchdown, but Dave Canales remains confident that Chuba Hubbard will be ready for the season opener. Jeff, I have been like the Jonathan Brooks guy for years. Absolutely love this guy. But I got to be honest, I've been drafting a lot of Chuba Hubbard in round 10 right now. It's pretty easy to just pass on Jonathan Brooks where he's going in round 5 or 6 and get Chuba Hubbard a few rounds later.
Yeah, I remember a couple years ago, as we were both making our paths through best ball and kind of just that world, and talking about diversity with you of the portfolio. And I'm somebody, I let diversity happen to me naturally. I don't force it early in the season and grab that discount. You see AJ Brown in round 3, take him every single time in round 3 because he's not going to be there long once he gets traded. You see Malik Neighbors dropping, take him there because it's going to spike right back up. And you're buying values on players. And so I know you were buying that early value on Jonathan Brooks. You've got the investment in Jonathan Brooks right now. And then naturally counterbalancing that as you see the pendulum swing and as you see Chuba Hubbard pushing down the board. And so I think that's just the smart way. I do tend to believe that to play these if you're going to be drafting for multiple months at a higher volume.
So we ask for podcast reviews all the time, and these podcast reviews mean so much to us, but I'm going to read the most recent one that we just got, Jeff, because we talk about it like, we don't want to pat ourselves on the back too hard, but we are ahead of the curve on a lot of these stories, kind of, before things trend in a certain direction and hit the major cycles, like we try to stay ahead of that. And the most recent podcast review we got says, as someone who listens to a lot of shows, this one has the best information. I use their advice to get some early perspective, and usually weeks later, the player's value have gone way up. And that is kind of what we talk about. Like, we don't force diversification because we just draft inside of these little 1 week, 2 week, 3 week pockets, and it naturally diversifies as ADP changes. So want to, one, thank that reviewer for leaving that review. It means a lot. And two, ask anybody else who hasn't left a review before to do so on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to us. It helps the show grow and just makes us feel warm and fuzzy when we get to read positive reviews about what we're doing. So thank you to whoever led that review. Now let's move on to the Chicago Bears. Kyle Monangai availability for week 1 is firmly in doubt after suffering from a hyperextended knee, opening a door for Roschon Johnson and Salvon Ahmed to battle for the third running back. So this is one we know Ben Johnson is going to have this 2 running back approach. So normally we don't care too much about who the RB3 is, but with DeAndre Swift healthy right now and Kyle Monangai dealing with an injury, I think there actually is discussion to be had here, Jeff. Everybody seems in on Roschon Johnson as just the guy who's going to make the team, but as the guy who's covering this Bears training camp report, it sure seems like Ahmed, who had a big chunk catch and run against the Browns in the first preseason game, looked very good in the second preseason game as well, showing up and looking good every single day in camp. He might be pressing for that RB3 spot, and Roschon Johnson, everybody's dynasty darling, might be on the outside looking in when this 53-man roster comes out.
So you're covering the team, and obviously you're a Bears fan. I believe, I might be off base, but I believe Salvon Ahmed is a core special teamer, a core 4, plays on all the units. Is that true?
He is.
Yes.
He is, yes. And then also looking very good in the running and receiving game. So kind of as like a, where I think Roschon would do more of the Kyle Monangai stuff. Ahmed is kind of doing more of the DeAndre Swift stuff, the big plays, the outside stretch runs and all that.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that I really press on as I'm doing these training camp reports is where the roster is shaping up and what the expectation would be nearing final cuts. And so often, I mean, once you're looking at the running back 3 or the wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 6 has to have special teams usage and ability there in almost every single situation. Arizona is going to keep 4 running backs. They're going to keep why am I blanking on the other dude? The breakout guy from last year.
Bam Knight.
Yes, Bam Knight is going to be the running back 4 there. We saw Trey Benson get released. Bam Knight is playing on core special teams, so that's why they're going to keep 4 backs there. And so,
and that was Taj Brooks talked about that like a month ago. Taj Brooks saying that like he knew that he had to improve on special teams if he wanted to keep a roster spot. Now it sounds like he's going to.
And so my wonder is the actual, depending on the Kyle Monangai's injury and the time frame on that, the guy that might step into there might not even be on the roster right now, where Ahmed might be kept there. And then as you get through final cuts, we see it all the time. A veteran that gets released or moved here, and then they come in, or we see Brandon Battle is the one that I always think about in my mind, where Brandon Battle came in and had like 10 targets in that game when James White got injured, and everybody was ready for that. And then they brought somebody in to step into that. Like just kind of examples there where that third running back de facto by emergency second running back is a special teams guy, and if they know that complimentary guy is going to be out, they'll bring somebody else in. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like Roschon Johnson has endeared himself at all to Ben Johnson from what I've followed, but
or the previous coaching staff for that matter. And the last thing I'll say about this backfield, though, is DeAndre Swift has been like the standout of camp. I mean, Colston Loveland's been getting a lot of buzz, but DeAndre Swift just showing up, looking good every single day. Like, there has not been a smidge of bad reporting on DeAndre Swift, just looking like one of the best values right now in drafts. Like, I have very much so shifted from like round 4 David Montgomery to just like round 4 DeAndre Swift in every
Ja'Day Walker still looking good, Dave?
He is, although Caden Davis might be pushing him out of 3 wide receiver sets. So, really getting in the weeds here on the Bears. Let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. And the note that I had in here was about T. Higgins, who has been dominating throughout practice and red zone drills. But I think we'd be remiss not to talk about Jamar Chase, who went down today with a kind of weird-looking injury. They're calling it a hyperextended knee right now, but he was very quick to say that he's fine in his press conference. Limped off the field, didn't finish the practice, claims to be fine. But Jeff, do you have any concern about this? It's probably too early for any serious speculation, but our Adam Hutchison said that there's possibility of an LCL sprain, said that there's possibility of a bone bruise. He said he expects to see him out there week 1, but this could be one of those where like adrenaline kind of helped him walk off the field, and he might be feeling it a little bit tomorrow.
Dave, I had the opportunity to draft in person with venerable Joe
Mm-hmm.
Bryant at the Southern Bluegrass Championship, and we went in. Our plan was to get a top 3 pick. We wanted one of the 2 running backs at the top, Jameer Gibbs or John Robinson or Jamar Chase. We got the number 3 pick. We got Jamar Chase. So yes, I am very,
Uh,
very, very concerned about Jamar Chase because my boss in a high stakes league, I talked him into the strategy, and so I'm DEFCON 13 right now on what's going to go on here with these Bengals here. But I mean, hopefully long term. I mean, hopefully short term, long term, everything's fine with Chase. But yeah, I'm nervous.
I, I I don't think there's any structural damage for what it's worth. Like the fact that he was able to walk off the field, there might be a little something here, but a few weeks away from the season, he seems to be downplaying it. The coaching staff is downplaying it. By the time you're listening to this episode Wednesday morning, maybe we'll have more news, and maybe it is catastrophic. But I think for anybody who's listening to this episode right after it drops on Tuesday evening, if you've got a midnight draft tonight, I think you could still take Jamar Chase as a top 5 pick pretty comfortably. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, Jeff. Deshaun Watson, after his train wreck of a press conference, was named the week 1 starter. Todd Monken proving he meant it when he said the press conference fallout would not factor into his decision. Oh boy. I mean, I guess good for Deshaun Watson that he's going to be the starter, but I don't know what they're doing in Cleveland.
I feel like Sean Watson is he saying what's the guy got to do to get fired here? Like I don't know
Right.
what's going on there.
Just like cut me and
Yeah.
give me my guaranteed
Yeah.
money, please.
I know
Yeah.
they had a joint session with the Bills this week, and the Bills defenders were basically just screaming check down like every single play. Like CJ Gardner-Johnson was like in the news of like just screaming check down. And to me, that Casey Concepcion and Harold Fannin Jr. I think are going to be the check down darlings on this offense that might not be pushing the ball vertically too often.
I saw a funny clip making the rounds on social media today where it says, check out this throw by Deshaun Watson. And it's just him like completely like uncorking, stepping into a huge throw, and the camera kind of follows it all the way downfield. And then you just see the ball just like bounce off the turf. And there's like nobody within like 20 yards of the ball. Like, not looking very good for them right now. I will say though, jokes aside, obviously lots of jokes to be had about Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. They did say he had a pretty strong week of camp leading up to that game. And like, even aside from that really bad interception that he threw in that preseason game, he looked okay. So, I mean, there is hope that maybe Deshaun Watson can hold this job for some point in time. But I think we see, like, if we were setting the over-under at 3.5 starting quarterbacks for the Cleveland Browns this year, are you taking the over or the under there, Jeff?
3.5. I don't think they'll get to 3. I'll take the under on 3.5.
You think 3 though? You
Yes,
take the over on 2.5?
I think 3. There are going to be 3 quarterbacks that start this year for the Browns. I would be very.
Give us some late season Taylor Green. I want to see it. Give us that 6.
It might still be
6
him. I mean, it might be him. But
That's what I think. Taylor Green, he'd be a lot more fun than Dylan Gabriel. I'll say that. But let's move on to the next one here, Jeff. The Dallas Cowboys. George Pickens continues to be the best player at camp, standing out even among arguably the deepest receiver room in the league. And this isn't, any sort of clickbait garbage or anything like that. Jason Wood, one of the most respected staffers we have here at Football Guys, he puts together all of the NFC East teams, and he has just been going on and on every single week about how George Pickens is having a great camp, looking like a standout player. I have been struggling to click that name, given the other receivers and other positions that are in that range at the 2-3 turn, but hard to ignore this positive drumbeat that we've been hearing coming out of Dallas.
yeah, I mean, I'll take Pickens if it's the 302. It basically is kind of where I view that one. But it is going to. This is always between this show, between working on the training camp reports, reading the training camp reports. I always do a big rankings update following this and work through give my projections another rundown. And I was just looking at them before the show, and I am too low on George Pickens. Really am my ranks out there. I'm too low on George Pickens. That is going to be coming up.
And I think I'm like at ADP, or I'm at consensus with his positional ranking, but it's just like, I would take. Let me ask you this question, because this is where I struggle: Trey McBride or George Pickens?
I'm going to take Trey McBride. I just think the volume's going to be there still, and it's just a difference maker. And yeah.
Let's move on to the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix is now suited up for the preseason and looks fully recovered from January's ankle fracture. Jeff, I feel like we've been saying this for the last few weeks now, and I just had this conversation with Sigmund Bloom on the episode that's going to come out in a couple of days. but the QB8 or better in back-to-back seasons. Now he's got Jalen Waddle there, getting priced as like the QB13 to QB15 on different platforms. I think this is like the guy that you want to target if you miss out on those elite quarterbacks.
Oh, I've said all off season he's been the best value quarterbacks, and I think it's set in and realized now because he's not falling the way into that back of the group of the quarterbacks in the way that he was a month or more ago. And so it's used to be kind of him, and then you get to Jordan Love, and now you're seeing the other guys. He's going in front of the Jared Goffs, Brock Purdy's of the world now, which I've been taking him there the entire time.
I still prefer Brock Purdy, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, the upside is there. I think Brock Purdy and Bo Nix, like that's the fact that that's a discussion just tells you that we're probably way too low on both of those players. Like those are two guys that I've been drafting a lot of this offseason. But let's move on to the Detroit Lions. Stop me if you've heard this before. Sam Laporta is dealing with an injury. Yeah, not great. They're saying it could threaten his week 1 availability. He's dealing with a hip issue right now. Dan Campbell saying, I feel like we'll be okay, but I don't know. I don't like the vibes here. And sometimes that's just what we've got to go off of, our vibes. But how are you feeling about this Sam Laporta hip injury, Jeff?
I'm reasonably sure I saw a piece right before we go to the show that he returned to practice today. So I could be wrong.
I saw that he was like back at practice, but like not a full participant, that he was just kind of like working out with the trainers on the side. So still like limited in his return.
Yeah. And I mean, I've definitely moved him down outside of, I think that there's always kind of been this tier of 8 tight ends, and I've got him outside of that now and kind of closer to, might be by tight end 11 as I'm going through my rankings update. And that's going to shove volume towards Jameson Williams, towards Amon-Ra St. Brown, towards Jahmyr Gibbs, and to some level, the moving train. If this thing's rolling with the game plan of those 3 guys, getting that 4th guy rolled in there might be pretty difficult to do.
And this is a new offense too. So like every day that he misses is a day of install that is pretty important. So definitely something that we will be monitoring closely. Green Bay Packers, Josh Jacobs returned to team practice last week after a groin injury and appears likely to remain atop the depth chart despite a difficult offseason. We got the legal problems, we got some injuries, but everything seems like Josh Jacobs is trending towards being the week 1 starter. Jeff, I know you and I had both talked about it, that he was just like an auto click in round 4 for a long time, and we started to get a little bit scared over the last couple of weeks. But if he's still sitting there hanging out in round 4 when you go into your home league draft, just smash that button. I mean, this guy returns top 10 value almost every single year. He might not have that top 3 ceiling, but like this is just as safe as they come. Like I feel like you're getting like kind of a supercharged Kyron Williams, but without Blake Corum breathing down his neck. Like Josh Jacobs just feels like a really easy round 4 pick.
It's starting to remind me a little bit of like Frank Gore, where it's like everything could be wrong, everything could be whatever it is, and then Josh Jacobs still just has 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns, and just kind of move on.
Yeah, and we've also seen like, the touchdowns have obviously been there in Green Bay, but also the receiving, which was like the biggest knock against him during his time in Las Vegas or Oakland. And now with Green Bay, they've kind of unlocked him as a receiver. So just a really good, easy pick, and he seems to be healthy. Marshawn Lloyd, might carve out a little bit of the backfield here, but given his injury history, I don't think they want to load too much on him. Let's move on to the Houston Texans. Following Jaden Higgins' ACL tear, the Texans traded for Patriots receiver Kayshon Boutte. What are your expectations here for Boutte, Jeff?
I mean, he can work his way into being the primary receiver opposite Nico Collins, but I don't know that he's going to start out there. And I mean, that compensation is kind of a big deal. That this is a player that a lot of us in the fantasy community have been very, very high on as an ascending young player. And, obviously going into free agency year this year, but, there was a report that I saw today that he's not getting handed a starting job down there in Houston, and going for that compensation at what is a premium position. And around the league, several receiver rooms are banged up right now, and so that being the price on him, I mean, that's kind of eye-opening. On one, that's all that Houston was willing to go in, and 2, nobody beat it. And so I think that you're seeing a lot of reaction that he's like locked in as the number 2 receiver opposite Nico Collins, and he might even threaten Nico Collins and all these things. And one, I do worry about the proverbial moving train. The install well, everything's been rolling for a couple weeks now, and Jahan Dotson, I think don't know that Jahan Dotson's the player that Butte is, but when we saw him traded in Philadelphia, basically he said all year he was just lost, his head was swimming, wasn't able to catch up. We've seen other examples of that, of receivers getting moved in this window and them struggling to catch up. So I mean, it's definitely in play. He can work his way up to it, but at the same time, I don't think I'm locking into it's sure going to happen.
I will say too, I saw that report as well about him like not being locked in as the number two, and a lot, well, not a lot, but I saw a few guys in the Texans be kind of saying like, well, yeah, he's got to earn it, but like the expectation is that he will by
Yes.
the time week one rolls around. So that's kind of where I'm at as well. That being said, Jalen Knoll, I
Yeah.
loved the prospect. Like he is an absolute dog. Like he is a really fun player. My count for him was Golden Tate. Like he is just one of those like mighty, smaller kind of guys that like just tenacious after the catch, vicious at the catch point, just a fun player. So, if you don't want to take Kayshon Boutte, where he's kind of creeping up in around 12, round 13 right now, you can save that round 20 pick for Jalen Knoll, who I think, if given the opportunity, can be pretty fun in this offense.
Yeah, and I think we are obligated to talk about Tank Dell because we saw John McClain, who's like basically the most respected beat reporter for the Texans. Aaron Wilson's fantastic for them, but McClain basically saying it's like Tank Dell's got a shot next year.
Nowhere near
like,
ready.
nowhere near ready. Like people are still just slamming Tank Dell, and we are pulling so hard for Tank Dell coming back, and that would be an amazing story. But yeah, it's just irresponsible.
Yeah,
I think on a season-long best ball type format where you're not going to have any roster moves, that feels very aggressive. But we've also been talking offline between each other about how round 20 is drying up and Jalen Knoll moving there into that round 20 range now with the excitement around Butte potentially.
Another really fun round 20 target is Seth McGowan, which leads us into the next team that we want to talk about here, the Indianapolis Colts. And we don't have any news on Seth McGowan, but we've been talking for the last couple of weeks. He seems to have locked down that RB2 spot here. But the news that we want to report on today is that starting tight end Tyler Warren suffered an abductor strain, but is expected to be healthy in time for week one. Jeff, I've been an aggressive Tyler Warren drafter all offseason, and I am just buying the dip here. They seem to be downplaying this, that it's nothing serious. He was back at practice as well, and I am just going to, like, now, he was starting to get steamed up a little bit in price, and now I think with this injury combined with the Keenan Allen signing, now we're starting to see him falling into, like, round 7, and I think Tyler Warren could easily be a top 3 tight end this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is in play, and it does give him a very, very, very solid discount potentially there. I think, Dave, I wonder about Alec Pierce because I'm seeing people around the team or like Colts fans.
He's been a week away from returning for 2 months now, it seems.
Yeah, because it seems like plugged in people around the team are kind of like, yeah, he's going to be there, and whereas like I'm definitely not projecting him to be there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I was a big Alec Pierce fader early in the offseason because he was going in round 5 and round 6, but like now I'm getting Alec Pierce in like the 120s. Like he's fallen into the double-digit rounds, and I'm drafting him there. Just even if he does miss a handful of weeks, but it does seem like I saw a video today of him walking around where he like didn't have that limp that he had a few weeks ago. He was running at practice last week, so hopefully he's back out there soon. But he's one of those guys like in a big tournament, I'm willing to buy the dip and take him for cheap. But in a home league draft, like where I need to like set a lineup, I'm definitely not even thinking about taking Alec Pierce because my guess is somebody's going to draft him, and then if he's not performing early in the season, they're going to draft him late enough that they're just going to drop him. If I want Alec Pierce in a shallow managed league, I could probably just pick him up off of waivers week 3, week 4, week 5. I'm not going to waste a draft pick there. But let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The running back committee remains intact despite LaQuint Allen's soft tissue injury, with Bashal Tutin and Chris Rodriguez continuing to split the bulk of the workload. Jeff, we've been talking about this since the spring, and now it seems like everybody else is starting to kind of catch on. This is going to be a full-blown committee here in Jacksonville, and I get it, like the size, speed, the relative athletic score, the spark score, the zap model, all that stuff loves Bashal Tutin, but if Liam Cohen loves Chris Rodriguez, does any of that really matter?
No, he's going to be involved. This is going to be a split, and you could very easily see this be the situation where Rodriguez is lower efficiency because the role that he's asked to play, and then you've got Tutin, the explosion, like Tutin's more efficient, and people are just going to be screaming all year long, just give it all to Tutin. And I think it's definitely feels like it's setting up like that to me. And outside of injury, I don't think either of them going to separate from each other because of the intention on how this backfield they want to use it. But the absence of LaQuint Allen involving them in the pass game, I do think makes both of them a lot more interesting.
As the guy who spent the last couple off seasons caping up for Zach Charbonnet in the face of everybody loving Ken Walker, I feel like this is just like Groundhog Day all over again, just with a new team.
I'm
Let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Emmett Johnson has earned praise from head coach Andy Reid and may have worked his way into the number 2 running back role this preseason. Jeff, Kansas City Chiefs, and reporting positively about rookies. We want to take this with a grain of salt, but at the same time, like, who else is going to be the RB2 in Kansas City? It's got to be Emmett Johnson, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of excitement this time last year about Rashad Smith and excitement there.
And 2 years ago for Carson Steele, and the year before for Darwin Thompson, and the year before that for Deneric Price.
Yeah. But at the same time,
Deneric Price, I can't even remember his name anymore. It was so long ago.
I do think Emmett Johnson was a little bit better of a prospect than some of those other guys that
for sure.
playing into there. Sure. But I mean, Smith was running with some time. Amari DiMercato was getting some work there, but I do think it's given a really good window for a good value on Emmett Johnson, because I think had he come in and there not being other names and kind of the conversation I think is a little bit set there. The ADP is a little bit set there on Johnson, opens it up for him to be pretty good value now with the injury to Kenneth Walker. I mean, I think Kenneth Walker's going to be fine. I hope he's going to be fine. But if he's not, then Joey's going to be really right for sure.
Joey Wright is right. Yeah, we love being able to lean into that one. But the last thing I'll say about Emmett Johnson is, like, we have seen Andy Reid does have a tendency to split the backfield, and Kenneth Walker has never been much of a pass catcher. Last year in college football, Emmett Johnson was number 2 in targets among all FBS running backs. So, like, that's what he does. Like, he is, he can do the early down stuff as well, but he is a very, very good route runner, pass catcher, reliable hands, a lot of the things that we haven't seen from Kenneth Walker. So there is a chance here that Emmett Johnson can carve out a passing down role, even if it's not, really cutting it into Kenneth Walker's workload. I think there could potentially be some standalone PPR value here. But let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, and we are still kind of in the dark here. Ashton Jeanty goes down. The whole team drops to a knee and says a prayer for him, and everybody immediately assumes the worst. Then it comes out that it's an ankle sprain. And then Clint Kubiak, when asked about it, says, like, I'm not going to talk about ankles. We don't know if it's a high ankle sprain or a low ankle sprain. Jeff, this is the first time I've said this publicly, so I might end up getting, like, completely scrutinized for this, but you remember last year Omarion Hampton went down with this kind of, like, mysterious ankle sprain, and they never really came out with the details about it, and then we found out, like, 8 weeks later that it was actually a fractured ankle. That's not what I want to jump to with Ashton Jeanty, but sometimes when we're not getting thorough reporting on these injuries, a lot of times that doesn't do anything except lead me to the worst case scenario.
So I am shocked. Like, the way that this played out was one of the weirdest things I think we can. The way that you talk about the prayer circle, all that stuff, people swung so far towards he's definitely done. Like, he's completely out for a 6-hour window. And then it, like, snapped immediately back. Like, oh, just take him where I'd always take him. He's fine. And to me, there is a very, very real possibility, especially from what we've seen from Mike Washington, that he just forces this backfield to be treated way differently. If Mike Washington is the primary back, the only back early in the season, the first game or two, like, there's a chance he just goes out and he's too good to deny, too good to put the genie back in the bottle, basically. And you could be looking at this backfield as, where did Clint Kubiak come from? Seattle. Where'd Ken Walker? Zach Charbonnet? I mean, this could very much be an Ashton Jeanty Washington split. And I think that it's not being recognized, the potential for that to manifest itself now. Is this team that, and I wanted to say something similar on Arizona, but I wanted to wait till the Raiders to make this point, because you could see Tyler Algier really establish himself to the point where they're not putting him back in the bottle. Neither of these teams probably think they're going to the playoffs. So if they get to that point, they want to preserve their investment in their highly drafted young back. You've got to recognize the possibility, very, very real possibility, that we've been projecting a Raiders backfield with Ashton Jeanty as the clear bell cow could swing into a committee backfield for moving forward.
The whole season? Yeah, I mean, Mike Washington has looked awesome. And, like, vindication for us. Like, we loved Mike Washington leading up to the NFL draft, and he's looked fantastic in his taste of preseason action. But that was something like with him falling all the way into day three. Like, I hadn't even thought about that possibility. Ashton Jinty's a workhorse. Mike Washington Jr. is an injury away from any meaningful touches. And then as soon as I started seeing Mike Washington on the field these last 2 weeks, I said, wait a minute. Like, we talked about this briefly last week where we said if you look historically, we have seen Clint Kubiak lean on Christian McCaffrey and not take him off the field in San Francisco. We also saw him split the touches 50-50 between Charbonnet and Walker. And now, like, I think the range of outcomes is anywhere in between there. 50-50 to 100-0 to 90-10 to 70-30. Like, you can draw this up, split it any way, but Mike Washington Jr. is good. And Clint Kubiak said that he has earned touches for himself. So let's just throw it out there. Like, and, you know, there's so much to take into consideration here. Like Mike Washington's breakout, Clint Kubiak's, comments on Mike Washington, and then this mysterious Ashton Jinty injury. But, like, where would you take Ashton Jinty? Like, early round 3, I think, is, like, kind of where I'd feel comfortable. But the problem is there's always somebody that's still going to take him.
Yeah.
They say, I can't believe I'm getting Ashton Jinty at 18th overall.
He went 105 this morning in a drafters from Dave. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if people are just joining and they've got their ranks preloaded and they're just like letting it auto early or what, but I was floored by that. But yeah, I think early third, because you've got these wide receivers, to me that it clearly separates him from the pack of the other running backs that are landing in that range. And you've got these wide receivers, the Drake London, the Nico Collins, the Malik Neighbors. Like, I don't know if Neighbors is the best example there, but why do I want to risk being way wrong on this injury, whatever else could be there, when I could have Drake London or I could have Nico Collins at that same pick, which pushes him into that early third round range?
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the Los Angeles Chargers, and this is going to open a can of worms that I'm very excited to talk about, Jeff. You wrote this bullet point, and I want to talk about this. Omarion Hampton and Keaton Mitchell have established themselves as the two top backs in preseason usage, with Kamani Vidal operating as the primary reserve behind either. Let's talk about depth charts and handcuffs, because I think a lot of people use RB2 and handcuff interchangeably. And if you listen to this show, you know better than that, but I have seen so many people saying Keaton Mitchell is the RB2. He's a Hampton injury away from smashing. Why don't you talk about depth charts a little bit, Jeff, and how there are different roles for different running backs?
So think about this schematically. So you've got in the Mike McDaniel offense. Mike McDaniel loves the wide zone, loves to get guys on the perimeter. And a lot of that is this jet sweep motion, like having a back, kind of an orbit back that can go in motion there or scheme it up. And what we saw with Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert very early in their career, Achane was kind of in that role where he would be that back that they'd bring him around on jet sweeps, those types of things, while they kind of use Mostert in the middle, in between the tackles. And then obviously we know Mostert was the utility, fell off there. He reached that point, Father Time always wins. And then we got feature bell cow Devon Achane. And so you see that, you just think conceptually, you're slamming it inside. This could be Omarion Hampton. That's not what Keaton Mitchell is going to do. And Keaton Mitchell, we've seen Keaton Mitchell in 3 years in the NFL have double-digit touches twice. In 3 years, they were 11 touches in those 3 years. And so this is not a back that is going to handle volume, and he's already injured. It came out kind of last night that he is already injured, that they're working through something with the injury there. Every single thing that this team has talked about has been the three backs. And Vidal, because of preseason usage, has been playing with the twos, playing into, I think he might have even hit the second half of this past game, which has created the perception that there is very, very clearly two backs here, and Vidal's way behind. Every single thing has been talking about these three backs. If Omarion Hampton were to go down, Vidal would be the guy that's getting 20 touches per game. Vidal would be the big winner off of this, because he would be the guy that is handling the physicality, working inside, and Keaton Mitchell's role would expand somewhat, but at the same time, he's kind of stuck. He's in the role that they've envisioned for him right now. And so I think that just gets lost so often. And I've seen it everywhere where Vidal's running with the twos, Mitchell's the guy, and yeah.
And there are a lot of teams that have this RB2 whose role wouldn't really change all that much. We always use Samaje Perine as the guy, but Samaje Perine, Justice Hill, Ty Johnson, Keaton Mitchell, like these guys, their role is going to be the same regardless of the RB1 in front of them. But then in the same way that, like, Kamani Vidal is the handcuff in this backfield. So is Ray Davis. So is, what were the other teams that I talked about? I think Adam Randall is probably more of the handcuff than Justice Hill would be. When you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, sure, we might see P. Ryan's role grow a little bit if Chase Brown got hurt, but Taj Brooks would be the guy that steps in and handles a lot of that early down work. So Kamani Vidal is just going undrafted right now, but if there were to be a Hampton injury, I think Kamani Vidal would go right back into the role that he had last year, where he was giving us weekly RB2 value. So an important discussion to have. But let's move on to the Los Angeles Rams. Puka Nacua has missed practice all this week with a psoas injury and a possible suspension, first reported by Adam Schefter, remains unsolved. Jeff, am I crazy for still taking Puka Nacua as the 103? Because that's where I've been taking him all year. And even this suspension thing, it's so like we haven't gotten anything solid on it. We just heard he might be suspended for one game. I'm just not really reacting to it.
Well, I mean, I do projections, and one game knocking Puka down there moves Jamar Chase into the wide receiver 1 role. Now, we obviously saw Chase get injured today, but Puka has been injured. And so I've got, I think the 104, I'm still taking him at the 104, but it does. Again, I did the draft with Joe and we wanted a top 3 pick. We didn't want a top 4 pick. I think had we drafted 2 weeks ago, we would have wanted a top 4 pick. And so I that's my mindset on where that separation has happened at the very, very tops of drafts. But the Rams are a team that I cover. So I'm very, very in on the Rams, and the fallout of Puka Nacua being out of practice is very fascinating, because we know how heavily utilized Puka Nacua is. It's allowed Devontae Adams and Matthew Stafford time that they didn't get any time at all to work together last year before the season started. And that was kind of the thing that they were talking about, of they just never really felt on the same page. And Devontae Adams lit it up this week against the Saints, looked like prime Devontae Adams. And there's a lot of hope there on, there was Nate Atkins has been doing a fantastic job with the Athletic, kind of stepped in for Jordan Rodriguez, who rightfully earned a much bigger role in her career. And Atkins has been on there, and he was talking about how there was a AJ Brown trade. Devontae Adams was on very much very far down the road on an AJ Brown trade. And the Rams got concerned about a degenerative knee condition with AJ Brown, but also they said, we looked at the film again, and there's a lot to unlock here with Devontae Adams. And this is Puka Nacua's being out has allowed that. The other part that Atkins was all over is Terrence Ferguson is being utilized as the wide receiver 2, basically. And Sean McVay said that Terrence Ferguson plays every single position in the offense outside of being the halfback, more or less. And so Ferguson talked about in the role that he was in last year, that verticality of that role. They basically told him, you're going to get the ball a lot close to the line of scrimmage now. You're getting a lot of volume there. And kind of, I half jokingly, half seriously tweeted last week about him being the wide receiver version of Cooper Kupp, or the tight end version of Cooper Kupp. But that's how they're using him, as the tight end version of Cooper Kupp, basically. And I
mean, I said that when he showed up to rookie OTAs last year, they gave him Cooper Kupp's old jersey number.
Yes. And so, I mean, he is just an insane value in drafts right now. And
he's moving up now into round 12 and around 13, still smashing that. Yep. I mean, you just look at all of the other, just the tight end wasteland behind those top 12 guys. None of them have the ceiling Terrence Ferguson does. So I'm just going to keep chasing that ADP up the board. But let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. The battle between Ollie Gordon and Jalen Wright for the number 2 running back spot remains too close to call after both had modest outings against the Giants. So this isn't they're both doing so good. We've got two. This is we got nobody behind Devon Achane.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, you're exactly right there. This is not, we've just got so many. This is, we've got 3 quarterbacks to kind of like right now, which means we don't have a quarterback. And so I think that they don't have a backup running back there. They're kind of stuck on, I think, what they're going to do. And if Achane were to miss time, that backfield would be a mess.
I just want to say I apologize to my dog who's been scratching and shaking her head. Poor Orzo. She's had a long day in the offense, so everyone say hi to Orzo, who's back there yawning, waiting for me to wrap up my final show of the day. But let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings. TJ Hawkinson had his best week of practice and was dominant in Tuesday's session, connecting with Kyler Murray for 3 touchdowns against the first-team defense. Jeff, were we too quick to just put a nail in TJ Hawkinson's coffin?
Absolutely, and I would put Mark Andrews on here too, because there was Mark Andrews. The stories with Baltimore was he was struggling to separate, and I imagine Hawkinson probably similar stories, struggling to separate. But then once the pads come on, once the physicality starts, then these guys out know how to operate in tight windows. They know how to work leverage. They basically it creates when you're kind of running there in shells, it creates a situation where they can't separate from a defensive back. But once they are able to use their strength, and it's like I say joking. I mean, I'm older than TJ Hawkinson, so I don't mean anything by, but like old man strength, basically, of where these guys are
Yeah.
at in their careers because of the understanding of leverage. And I think that we shouldn't be shocked to see that. And there really is not, there's not a tight end that would push him out anywhere in Minnesota. I mean, he's pretty well locked. He's going to be the guy for sure there. So yeah, he's being left for dead, and was probably too premature on that one.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, but I think you'll probably know the answer to this. What is the age apex for tight ends?
Isn't it like 29, 30, or maybe even 31?
Yeah, 29 to 31. TJ Hawkinson just turned 29 years old. We got to remember that he had that season ending, like a very bad knee injury a couple of years ago. And shocker, he hasn't looked like himself for the year and a half following that knee surgery. But now, almost 2 full years removed from that knee surgery, going into his apex years, like, I think this is a guy that so underpriced right now. I mean, just like at the very, very end of your draft. I've been using him as like a tight end 3 in best ball builds right now. Definitely somebody who could have a resurgence. My major fear here, full disclosure, is Kyler Murray. You know, we saw Kyler Murray couldn't really get the ball to Trey McBride. He's not a huge fan of throwing the ball across the middle of the field, but I feel like TJ Hawkinson's role is so different, where we see Trey McBride going up the seam, a lot of in-breaking routes. TJ Hawkinson is more of that, just like settling down in the flat in zone coverage. When you've got the downfield targets in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison pulling defenses back, TJ Hawkinson just always seems like he's just sitting there in the flat with like 10 yards of space around him to catch the ball and, you know, get his 4 or 5 yards after catch. So I still think that there's upside here for TJ Hawkinson that people are not recognizing.
In best ball, Dave, have you changed, in really probably even recently, how you're attacking tight end in drafts this year? Because I know I have changed over the last like week or two on how I'm attacking tight end in drafts, because I know you're grabbing Bach
I've kind
Powers
of
if
got,
he's there, or like one of the
still
very
am.
early
Yeah.
options. But I think there was a lot of value in that the kind of the Pitts tier, that area, and I was trying to make sure that I
Those guys
got
are getting moved way up. They're getting
yes.
moved way up now. Where
Yep.
like Kyle Pitts is regularly going inside the top 80, where he was going like 115 a while back. So yeah, now I do find myself kind of waiting and saying like, I can make do with a Terrence
Yep.
Ferguson, T.J. Hawkinson, A.J. Barner room.
Yep, exactly. I think Elijah Arroyo is his name to mention there, very,
Uh
very
huh.
late. But yeah, I've done the exact same. I've transitioned from I really want to get like this Pitts window, this Fannin window, if I miss on the elite guys, to now, as long as I get Terrence Ferguson, if I get Terrence Ferguson and I, the Hunter Henry's staring there because he falls all the time. You've got TJ Hawkinson sitting there. So yeah, I've definitely transitioned the way, especially like the last week or two, the way I'm attacking tight end. And it's funny because you're seeing exactly like you said, Kyle Pitts moving up. We're getting clearance on Tucker Kraft, him moving up. And so it's again, don't force diversity. Diversity will find you. And so I drafted a lot of teams with higher end tight ends, and now I'm drafting a lot of teams with the value at the tight end position.
Let's talk about the New England Patriots. Ramondre Stevenson still appears to hold the heavier workload in the backfield over Travion Henderson, though Henderson's open field dynamic plays keep the platoon intact. You and I have talked about it. I think we both have Ramondre Stevenson ahead of Travion Henderson right now. But do you find yourself taking Travion Henderson? This is a tough one. Like, I just kind of want to draft both of these running backs. Like, it seems like every platform, they're neck and neck. Sometimes it's Ramondre ahead of Travion. Sometimes it's Travion and ahead of Ramondre. This kind of feels like one where, like, there's so much uncertainty that I feel like there's just value with both of them at this point.
Yeah, again, a change that I've noticed in my drafting is for a while there, I really wanted to get one of the elite quarterbacks in that round 6, kind of that group. And now I've noticed that you can kind of get those guys in 7. And I've been getting these Patriot backs and those types of players in 6, kind of pushing out that quarterback position one more round, because you are able to get a faller out of any of that group of Jane Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts is one that usually falls. But yeah, I've changed up the way that I'm attacking that position there.
Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. Jordan Tyson is expected to miss approximately 2 months with a right hamstring injury and could open the season on injured reserve. I mean, again, like we're talking about so much shifting ADPs right now. Jordan Tyson falling into round 12. Like, I kind of want to do that just in case he has this, like, Odell Beckham type of return that we saw his rookie season. But to, like, and you know, that's best ball talk. That's big tournament talk. That's high stakes talk.
Yeah.
If I'm drafting in a league with my 11 buddies this weekend, I don't think I'm touching Jordan Tyson unless I've got 2 IR spots.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the key there, having IR spots that you can stash Tyson. But I don't know if I'm just getting old or what it is, but there was definitely a time where if they had an IR tag next to him, I was going to take him, and I was going to take him like even probably close to relative to where they go, and I would just stash them. And now I just want guys that are healthy and going to be on the field, and you got to give me really extreme value, I think, to get like the guy that really is injured. And we talked already in this episode about opening up opportunities for other players and how that could change the room. But Barian Brown has generated buzz at some points. Bryce Lance generating buzz at some points. You could have these young players step up and really solidify themselves where Jordan Tyson is out. And depending on how competitive the Saints are, they could be pretty cautious with working Jordan Tyson back in there. I know Brandon Angelo is really sharp and does a lot with like physiology of stuff. And he was talking about how they basically should be rebuilding Tyson from the ground up, more or less, on the approach there. And he wouldn't play him at all this year.
And you talk about the younger guys there, but Devon Bailey has been getting nothing but positive buzz coming out. And I know that's Sigmund Bloom talking about like one of his favorite late round targets. Like, he could slot in as the wide receiver too. So I'm with you. I don't think they're going to force Jordan Tyson back. But let's talk about the New York Giants. Malik Neighbors increased his workload in a non-contact red jersey, but John Harbaugh notes that he still needs to be able to absorb live reps before being cleared for week 1. So, ADP is spiked. He's going in the middle of round 2 right now, but we still don't even know. Like, Malik Neighbors could open the season on PUP. He might not be ready for week 1. What are your expectations here, Jeff?
I'm not going to middle round 2 of Malik Neighbors. He is the perfect, basically 211, 212 player for me. I'm not going up that high into the middle round 2. And you really would want to see something, I think, before you're going to get that aggressive on that move there. Just
And I definitely would like to see him. I think once he's cleared for contact, then he probably moves up in like a top 15 pick. But until he does that, and we are positive that he's going to be on the field for week 1, I think it's okay to have a little bit of pause here.
And we are stepping into home league draft season, and I do think Zay Flowers is going to be a big difference if you're in the industry or you're kind of doing those sharp drafts and you step into your home league. Zay Flowers is probably going to go later than what you were expecting to see him there. And I think Malik Neighbors is another one of those players that, depending on the atmosphere, being in an industry league, those players will be willing to push him into that middle round tier. But it kind of, when you're drafting with your buddies around the weekend, you can probably get an early round 3 Malik Neighbors pretty easily.
Moving on to the New York Jets, Breece Hall is expected to return from his groin strain in time for the week 1 opener at Tennessee. We have seen a lot of good buzz from Breece Hall. He's already moving and cutting. Seems like he is on the right track. This is another faller, Jeff. Like, Breece Hall in round 4. And this is why I keep saying, like, I want these early round wide receivers, because we just keep talking about it. Like, DeAndre Swift is in round 4. David Montgomery's in round 4. Now Breece Hall is in round 4. Josh Jacobs is in round 4. It's so easy for me to pass on the early running backs, knowing that I can get these guys in round 4. And Breece Hall, just another very, very easy click with where he's going.
Yeah, I'm not passing him on round 4. I'm definitely taking him there. And I had a minute today. I put some Jets podcast on today because I realized I hadn't gotten too much out of that team, and boy, they're excited. They're ready for it. At least the podcast that I listen to, like they are very, very in on this team. And I was a little bit.
Gino's been lighting it up reportedly.
Yeah, Gino's been lighting it up.
And we've been talking since the draft. We've been talking since the draft that, like, this could be a sneaky team that, like, everybody just loves to, like, LOL Jets. But if this team ends up being just a little bit better than expectation, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Mason Taylor, like, there are so many pieces here that could just pop off if Geno Smith looks good. I mean, I just did a draft last night, 14 team, 30 rounds, super deep, but I walked out with Brees Hall, Geno Smith, and the Jets defense because they were just like left for dead in this deep draft. Like, I have been drafting probably more Jets than I'm comfortable with, but they are just so cheap, and this could end up being a top 10, top 15 defense or offense pretty easily.
Well, you saw Garrett Wilson going at the 1-2 turn last summer with Justin Fields as quarterback, and
Right.
and now like he was living up to that before getting hurt. He was living up, and now he's at the 3-4 turn, and he's got to have the best quarterback play he's ever had in his career. And so, yeah, I mean, we're gonna really can't
draft the Jets.
We're
apparently,
the podcast saying draft the Jets out here, but yeah.
Well, let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon both returned to practice from hamstring injuries, although Lemon's missed time in full team drills will likely delay his emergence as an early season focal point. Yeah, we talk about this all the time. Like, it doesn't matter how good a rookie is. If you are missing meaningful time in preseason, it is so hard to get on that train. And we saw this from JSN his rookie season. We've seen this from countless talented rookies. I see the upside case for Mekhi Lemon, but like, if I'm in, again, talking home league season, like if you're preparing for your drafts right now, of course, somebody's always going to take him in like round 8 in a best ball format because they want to swing for that upside. But like, I don't think I'm clicking Mekhi Lemon's name prior to like round 12 if I'm drafting in a home league, because I think this is one where people are going to get frustrated and drop him early.
Absolutely. And yeah, he is very, very much in play for that. And it's these injuries, we do a good job of talking about the injured player and getting them back in there, but I think we don't really do the best job of thinking about what has been happening when they've been out of the lineup. And I think Dontavian Wicks has been really developing rapport with Jalen Hurts. And I know everybody has been ready for the Dontavian Wicks breakout the last couple of years, and it's never really happened. But I do think that he's going to be that wide receiver 2 there, and they're going to. And Mekhi Lemon, I mean, I had questions about the fit to begin with. And so him missing that install time and not being able to work into there, it really opens it up.
Install time that also Jalen Hurts also learning a new offense. So Jalen Hurts learning a new offense without this rookie out there. I mean, this could just end up being like Dontavian Wicks being the wide receiver 2 all season, and Mekhi Lemon, I don't want to say redshirting, like they're going to scheme up some opportunities for him, but he might not be the playmaker that you hope he's going to be in year 1.
It's just a lower volume scheme. We should expect it to be a lower passing volume scheme. Dallas Goedert's not going anywhere. Dallas Goedert deeply trusted by Jalen Hurts. And so once you start to talk about, I mean, Devonta Smith's going to get his. Dallas Goedert, we've seen him whenever one of Smith or A.J. Brown were out of the lineup doing that. And then you've got Wicks getting comfortable there. There's just not a lot left over.
So let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers next. DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. are expected back for week 1, and Roman Wilson holding down the inside track for the 3rd wide receiver spot. Who do you prefer between DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman?
Whoever's cheaper. I mean,
Yeah,
whoever I prefer between the two of them.
Huge disparities on different platforms too, which I'm sure you've noticed. Like, they are neck and neck on some platforms. Other platforms, there's like a 4-round gap. It's really kind of weird.
Heads up, I prefer DK Metcalf, and I still believe that DK Metcalf's a pretty good football player, and I think that him being a top 15 receiver is in play there. But it really does depend on price, and I don't care about Roman Wilson, and it does sound like Darnell Washington is playing more than Freiermuth there a little bit, but like you could definitely see the scenario where Washington's kind of more on the field as the inline guy. Freiermuth is kind of the slot or working in as the second tight end, move tight end there, and then when they do want to go 3 wide receiver sets, they put Roman Wilson out there, and we've not mentioned Jeremy Bernard there at all, and so I do think that you're probably going to get the standard rookie redshirt year from Aaron Rodgers with Jeremy Bernard.
And thanks to my wife, who just came and snagged my dog out of my office, who got one of my socks and was going crazy in the background. It's been a long, long day here in the office, as I'm sure you can see by my dog's pent-up energy. But let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers. After an explosive performance on Thursday, rookie Kalen Black is now the favorite for the second running back spot behind Christian McCaffrey. Jeff, we know how valuable an RB2 spot is in San Francisco, especially with Christian McCaffrey already dealing with tightness, coming off the 400-plus touches from last year. Kalen Black, this to me kind of feels like one of those guys that should be going 6 rounds earlier, but for whatever reason is just sitting there for free at the end of drafts.
It's fascinating how like the guys that ADP does adjust on, the guys that ADP does not adjust on, and the values that you're able to get on the guys. But I mean, I have seen him trickling up, or somebody being willing in a draft to go grab him there. But yeah, and you can definitely see the way that the type of runner he is, complements Christian McCaffrey so well. And he's kind of a
Yep.
lot like Elijah Mitchell, where it's just like see it and hit it. And I think that Kyle Shannon loves that type of runner, and so you could see him working and having a larger role than a back with McCaffrey has traditionally had, because of wanting to preserve McCaffrey to some level, but also because of just the difference and complement that he offers in that offense.
Yeah, I feel like my comp was almost like too on the nose, but like if you go back and you watch Kalen Black in college, it feels like you're watching Kyle Monangai 2.0. Like they are such similar with their running styles, the way that they just accelerate into contact and like seek contact, like just an aggressive runner. Very, very fun guy that coaches are going to
I,
like.
I
Let's
love
talk about
the
the yeah.
still love the nickname for Elijah Mitchell, Drano, because he's just gonna, what didn't matter what was gonna there, he was gonna clear it out.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Jadarian Price returned to practice and stepped back into the starting running back role after missing 5 sessions. Jeff, I was like, during rookie season, during draft season, I was like the biggest Jadarian Price hater out there. But you're going to let me get a first round running back on a team that needs a running back in round 6? What are we doing here? Like, why is Jadarian Price falling so deep in fantasy drafts?
Where the ADP was set. I mean, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
outrageous.
Yeah, no, I think it's great value to go there with Price. He's a player that I love to target in that area, and just the upside, because you got to recognize it's basically the argument that everybody has been making for Bashal Tutin is the Jerry Price argument that you should be making for a guy that went in the first round here on. And Bashal Tutin's getting all that steam, and it doesn't seem like Jarian Price is getting that steam that he should. But you're not even getting really a Hard Knocks bump, and you get on Hard Knocks, they're talking
Right.
about how fast and explosive he is, and usually, I don't know, maybe we're just losing it, Dave. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe, and I get it. Like, I think there's a lot of fears because we saw Kenneth Walker was kind of kept in a bottle over the last couple of years and like didn't really get the workload that we had hoped for. But like, Zach Charbonnet's still coming back from an ACL tear. George Halani, sure, he's going to be a little bit involved. Emmanuel Wilson might get some touches here, but like, we are still drafting Jadarian Price behind what Kenneth Walker was doing last year. Like, we're just drafting this guy so low right now. Just a very easy click in any format. But let's talk about the Tampa Bay Bucks with Emeka Buka and Chris Godwin both tending to injuries. Rookie Ted Hurst has had a chance to shine in practices. We are getting a steady drumbeat about Ted Hurst here, and it's one that, for whatever reason, the fantasy community just has not seemed to pick up on.
I drafted him today, Dave, and I'm going there.
I'm not surprised.
I'm gonna get some Ted Hurst. I'm trying to lean into our friends here at DraftKings, because I think I want to label the anytime Ted Hurst. Anytime, I think those odds are probably going to be pretty good for an anytime touchdown on Ted Hurst.
Yeah, so that's a pretty easy one. Like, you're just looking for the guy that's going to step into that X receiver role vacated by Mike Evans. That could be Ted Hurst, a third-round rookie with very, very good size. I mean, this is definitely a guy that you want to go out and draft. Now, let's talk about 2 more teams. First of all, the Tennessee Titans. Carnell Tate has been a standout in practice with acrobatic catches and impressive toughness, but that has yet to translate to any in preseason game production. It's kind of weird, Jeff. Like, Carnell Tate, it seems like he always makes these like unbelievable plays when he is in practices, but we just haven't seen it in any preseason games. Like, what do you think is going on here? Is it just that the Tennessee defense is that bad?
Bingo, you got it. I mean,
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah.
use the analogy of with the Ravens, and everybody talking about how explosive Lamar Jackson looks, and Jacoby Lane doing all these things, and then they go and scrimmage in basically like live bullets against Brian Flores and the Vikings, and the offense was awful, and it couldn't do anything. And you can't help but wonder, because the Ravens starting 2 cornerbacks were out, and so when Lane was working in there, it's like a third cornerback he's working against. And as Carnell Tate working against a very bad Tennessee team, and that Tennessee offense working against a bad Tennessee team, and then as soon as they get into a game situation against a team, and they just can't do anything at all. And Tennessee does feel very, very scary there. I mean, it definitely does seem like Wan'Dale Robinson, the volume should be there for Robinson, but Cam Ward, the early returns are not good.
Let's close on a very, very sad note here. The Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels' long-awaited return to live action lasted just 3 snaps, ending with a sack as persistent offensive line pressure produced an immediate 3-and-out. Jeff, right after this preseason game, I hopped in a $350 draft on NFFC, and I got Jaden Daniels in round 12. Like, just take advantage of these knee-jerk reactions. Like, yeah, it was bad. The offensive line is bad. Laramie Tunsil's hurt. I understand all of that, but 1 3-and-out, and you're going to let me get Jaden Daniels in round 12? Come on. What are we doing here?
Well, I mean, we've talked about it previously about you and Joey have been on the late round quarterback train, and I'm saying, but guys, like the values that you can get on some of these quarterbacks that we should be expecting to be top 5 level quarterbacks are really, really good right now.
Well, that'll do it, Jeff. We wanted to keep it under an hour, but it's so hard. We have so much to talk. I love talking with you. I could talk with you for 3 hours, and we've proved that multiple times before, but trying to keep these a little bit more bite-sized and user-friendly here. But I want to thank y'all so much for taking the time. Any final words, Jeff, before we log off here? Correct me if I'm wrong. We should do another one of these next week. Want to do it one more time?
Well, Dave, in the past, we've planted some flags on some guys. The last time we've kind of gone through this, and we haven't really,
We've got next week. We've got the My Guys
yes,
episode coming out with Joey
but
Wright.
we've done. I think if you dig into the archives, we usually do a team by team, like these are our final takes type of a thing. So that's got to be brewing, percolating somewhere. So.
Yeah, we'll have something fun planned for next week. All the more reason to subscribe, follow, whatever you got to do to make sure you find us next week. Got 2 more episodes coming out this week, both with Sigmund Bloom. We're doing a little mini series here, talking about early round busts and late round sleepers. So be sure to subscribe so you can check those episodes out over the next couple of days. Come back next week when we're going to be, next week, right? Next week we're doing the My Guys episode with Joey Wright, where we're going to put our flag on a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and a sleeper, each of us. That is going to be a mega episode loaded with information for your fantasy drafts. And then Jeff, you and I will do our team by team rundown before the season kicks off. I mean, this is it. We know a lot of you are drafting this weekend, but we know even more of you are drafting Labor Day weekend. So you got about a week and a half left to prep up, get ready for these fantasy drafts, and the season will be here in no time. Last thing I'll say is, Jeff, we're both going to be, along with Joey Wright, in Vegas leading up to week 1. So if you want to join us there, we talk about these NFFC drafts all the time. The Football Guys Online Championship, a $350 entry into a tournament to win $300,000 up top with all sorts of payouts in between there. We are going to be there drafting these teams in person. If you have any interest and you want to join, shoot us an email at fantasyshow@footballguys.com. I can get you all of the information you need to set up that trip. It's not too late to book your trip, book your hotel, and get in some of these drafts. So fantasyshow@footballguys.com. We would love to see you there. A really, really fun time with a bunch of Football Guys staffers, some of the sharpest high-stakes drafters in the industry, the whole NFFC squad. A very, very fun time, and we will be there that Wednesday through Saturday leading up to week 1. But I want to thank y'all so much for taking the time to tune in, and we will see you soon.